Freak. Game Freak. I've been expecting you. Let's have a talk. Hello everyone, and welcome to An Open Letter to Game Freak. The video concept so interesting that I filmed it once, and it wasn't funny. So we're gonna try again. That's real. This is the second time filming this video. Let's talk about the Teal Mask DLC. It wasn't good. I feel like this is not a hot take. It wasn't a good DLC by any means. It looked terrible, just like the rest of the game, because the Switch is an outdated and no longer relevant console, despite Nintendo's best efforts to tell you that it keeps up. It just doesn't. I mean, look at Mortal Kombat. Look at this. You see, this is... We've made it to the point where this is inexcusable, right? Like, can we all agree? Great. But I'm not here to talk about the mechanics of the game or the mechanics of the code, because I don't understand enough about that to have a meaningful... What's the word I'm looking for? A meaningful take, I guess. I'm not a coder, and I'm not a game balancer, so I can't... I don't have I don't have a helpful point of reference. But what I do know a lot about is storytelling. And the story, even regardless of the gameplay, was also very much not good. So today, me and little baby Creamtown here are gonna talk about why the Teal Mask DLC story was terrible and how it could have been better. So here are 5 ways the Teal Mask could have been good. Parentheses, story. Point number 1. Make the teacher matter! This is the teacher that brings you to Kitakami, the setting of the Teal Mask. And right off the bat, there are some issues. First off, I just don't like her design. Partially because it gives more away than I think it means to. Or maybe it does mean to. I'm not sure, but I don't like it. The earrings are too big, they're too much, and they're very clearly the Terra symbol. The actual narrative reason I don't like it is because it immediately gives away that this is another person who is obsessed with Terra, similar to the villain from the main game. I wonder if that's related in some way. And no sooner than did I and everyone else put that together than she asks us if we've read the Violet book, or the Scarlet book if you have the inferior version of the game. And her response, whether or not you're honest with her and tell her that you've read it, is, oh, don't worry, here's the original. Immediately, all of the intrigue gone. Okay, this person is 100% a bad guy. For sure. Not good, going to get too invested in this and just probably try and steal Terapagos when he comes out. That's my theory. That's my game theory! Ah! She's gonna try and do some villainous shit with Terapagos in part 2, and they're quote-unquote foreshadowing, when really they're just telling you immediately, within 5 minutes of meeting her. This could have been done more subtly. The main issue was that this bitch doesn't get any screen time. She's on screen for maybe 2 or 3% of this DLC, and it's a problem if they're trying to foreshadow with her. And so, of course, their answer is, well, just do it really fast, and that makes it too obvious. Point number 2. Explore parallels between Ogerpon and Kieran. Kieran spends his whole time as the shy little boy who's being spoken for by his sister, by his grandparents, by everyone in his life. He doesn't get to have an opinion until basically the end. And what prompts this is him being left out of his one niche interest at literally every turn, and everyone in his life being like, yeah, that's a good call. His grandpa doesn't want to tell him the truth because he's not ready. His sister will not involve him in literally meeting the ogre, this thing that he's obsessed with. And you, because you are not given a choice in any way in any of your dialogue options, also are determined to leave this kid out of the biggest thing that's ever happened in his life, which he's predisposed to be interested in, because it's his one niche interest. I'm so upset for Kieran. Justice for Kieran. And there are parallels in this. The Loyal 3 have come back. We're gonna rant about them in a second. The Loyal 3 have returned. They're trying to finish off Ogerpon, and you show up to save the day, and then you have to go hunt him down and get all the masks back. Whatever. But as this happens, Kieran is, like, written out of this part of the plot, and you could do an, like, interesting parallels between Ogerpon being shunned from the village and is actually a really nice little thing that just wants to have friends. And Kieran being constantly talked over and shunned out of the spotlight, but wanting to have a friend. Ending with these two as partners, which, I mean, should have been how this went. The most obvious ending to this, the only reasonable one is, yeah, Kieran should end up with Ogerpon. Here's my hot take for the game. You shouldn't be able to catch Ogerpon. He should just go with Kieran and not be part of the Pokedex. You shouldn't be able to get him. Or if you are, maybe there's a second Ogerpon in a similar way to how there were two legendaries in this game. I don't know. But my point is, the fact that at every turn, mainly Carmine, but the whole game is trying their hardest just to beat Kieran into the dirt by leaving him out, is fucked. It's so mean for no reason. And the writing of the game never shows any remorse for this. They've just decided that, yes, Kieran bad, Carmine good. Yeah, deal with it. And I will say, there is a second half to this DLC coming out later. If this is intentional, and if in the second part of the DLC, the villain arc they set up for Kieran with that last shot of him like, angst, comes to fruition and it ends up with everyone apologizing to Kieran for treating him like absolute shit, I'll take all of this back. But for now, they just decide that Kieran sucks and doesn't deserve to be happy, and that Carmine is great, even though she's not. Point number 3, Carmine is an abuser. That's not a way to improve it, but hey, let's maybe address it in-game. Carmine constantly abuses Kieran, whether or not it's literally talking over him, deciding what he wants, or straight up berating him in front of other people. Carmine spends all of her time just being a shitty big sister to the point where I would think it qualifies as abuse. And Kieran does nothing to warrant this. He's a pretty chill little brother. He spends his time being like, here's the two, like, juxtaposition that I'm gonna go with. At the beginning of the mask festival, she runs off to the thing and is, like, trying to find a mask, and when you get there, she's like, haha, there's only 2, fuck you, and runs off. And then Kieran is like, hey, don't be too hard on my sister, she actually was looking really hard to try and find you a mask, she's actually pretty cool. Tsundere bullshit, whatever, I don't care. But Kieran is immediately up to bat for his sister, like, hey, I know she's a rough around the edges, but, like, she's cool. And then, in the next scene where they really interact, Carmine just basically screams at him, and then her grandfather is like, hey, lay off your brother, and she says, and I'm basically quoting here, it's not like I hit him. The biggest red flag I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. I only verbally abused him, so it's okay. That's not okay! That's not an okay thing to say. And if you want it to not be an okay thing to say, and we're gonna explore themes of abuse, sure, fine. Weird that we're doing it in a kid's game, but I mean, okay. But not only is she never really challenged on this point, the game treats her like a hero, and like the good sibling, which is so unequivocally fucked up. I sympathize so hard with real-world abuse victims that played this, and empathized with Kieran, who is absolutely being abused by his sister. And the game just decides that it's cool. I don't even have notes. There are so many other ways you could have taken this. You could have not made her abusive, or you could have pointed out that she was abusive and then given her a comeuppance of some sort. Or even at least addressing it. I can't believe no one brought this point up in whatever the story version of quality assurance is. The writer's room? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm too worked up about this. I can condense it in this way. The game very clearly wants one person to be good and just, and that person is not good and just, and they don't bother looking into that or even bothering to consider it. Point number 4, don't act like billionaires are good people. These two are the glitterati. Now I'd like to conduct a quick little a little poll here. Editor, throw up a little like intro poll music. Leave a comment on how many of you knew that glitterati was a real word before this game. Did you? Did you really? I didn't. None of my friends who played this game did. We all thought, genuinely, that they were just putting a fun little twist on the word Illuminati, and that they were gonna do something with, hey, these Billy and O'Nair, these billionaires are shitty people and they're running the world into the ground. And I thought we were gonna actually get some, like, hot takes here. And instead, they've decided that what these two people's role in society is to just give out financial advice and little treats to the commoner that they have deemed entertaining. The most patronizing, shitty way they could have played these two. And they're called the glitterati because that's a word which is a play on literati, which means intelligent and like well-educated people. Glitterati is another real word that Pokemon did not make up that means the same thing, but it's like fancy and rich rather than intelligent and well knowledgeable. I don't know this, but I have to imagine that that word was also created as an insult to those type of people. The people who are so obsessed with fashion and money over the good of other people, which these two absolutely would fall under the category of. They spend the entire duration of you chasing them around Paldea just talking about, like, buying and selling air. I think the first conversation with them is a literal Lorax reference. This text box. I think they're playing on the fact that her name is O'Nair, and it sounds like O'Hare. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is that this game has such an intense want to say, these people are good, don't think about it. When... That's terrible for a story, especially when these people are clearly not the good guys. So the main plot is shitty. This little subplot is shitty. If only there was some glimmering beacon of hope that we could focus on that would pull this DLC out of the dregs of... Oh, thank the Lord. Parin is the only good character. That's not true. Kieran's a good character, he just gets shafted. But Parin is the only good arc. Parin is a photographer that has lost her spark and wants to snap a photo of Bigfoot and is asking you to come with her to help to, like, search the forest and keep wild Pokemon off of her, basically. That on its own is a fun concept that I don't think we've seen in the Pokemon universe, except maybe Eswine looking for Suicune, if you count that, but it's kind of different because he knows Suicune is real. This is very much a literal, like, we're going to hunt for Bigfoot. That's a great idea. That's a phenomenal idea for Pokemon. From the way that the other two parts of this DLC were handled, I would guess that they were going to make her a poacher, trying to steal or sell her photos to a group trying to steal the Blood Moon Beast, Ursaluna. Instead, she literally is just out there trying to basically deal with gifted kid burnout syndrome. And you help her with that by defending her from the Blood Moon Beast, and you do end up catching it, but again, same with Ogerpon, it's a Pokemon game, you have to be able to catch everything. Ugh. But all of the photos she takes of the event of the battle, when she finally is presented with her muse, is blurry. They're out of focus, they're bad pictures. And she decides that they're the favorite picture she's ever taken because they're capturing someone else's passion. Your passion. The player character's passion for battling. And that's a really cool narrative, that this, like, gifted burnout kid syndrome, whatever, is willing to stop holding herself to a standard of absolute perfection after witnessing someone else's passion. That's an awesome narrative, through line, it's handled well, and she's not a fucking abuser. I'm so unbelievably angry that they have decided that Carmine's a good person in this DLC, in case you can't tell. Parin, best girl, unbelievably so. Carmine, worst girl, maybe ever. I love Parin, she's great. I hope to God that she's an adult. We don't have a confirmed age yet, but I hope that she's an adult, so it's not creepy that I think her design is cute. No, but here, I don't have anything to base this on, other than speculation. But my theory is that the writing team for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as a whole is divided into 3 groups, and only one of these groups has any idea what they're doing. There is the mid group that is just telling a middling story that's just kind of there because it needs to be. This is the group that wrote Nimona and the Gyms and Champion. There's not really a story there. There's like beats, but it's whatever. But it needs to be there. In the DLC, they gave this team the Glitterati. A fun little fetch quest that needed to be there. Don't think too much about it. Whatever. There was the phenomenal team that wrote Arven's stuff with the injured dog, person trying everything to save them because it's the only thing they bond with, and then the reveal that they don't bond with anyone else because their parent is the professor who's been trapped in Area Zero and is actually dead. That whole storyline, phenomenal. That team must have written the Parin storyline because those two are equally very good. Kinda simple, children's game, sure, but good. And then there's the Team Star team of writers that wrote Team Star and that wrote the main plot line for the DLC. And their through line is deciding that the bad guys are good and should not be questioned. Because that really is the through line. Carmine is good, do not question it. Penny is good, do not question it. Did she steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from the main governmental body? Yes. Did she have to give it back? I guess. Did she go to jail or anything like that? No. She got a fucking job for it. That's... Regardless of the Team Star actual story, which I also hate, but we could talk about that another time, Penny stealing from the main governmental body, literally a terrorist. Penny's literally a terrorist, and they're like, hey, you want a job and no comeuppance? Because you're a good person. We've decided as the writers. That team of writers must be the same. Ugh. So there you go. Those are my 5 things that I've noticed. 1 in 5 is not a good track record, Paldea. Not the Teal Mask, the Indigo Disc. I mean, it better fucking bang. Or I'm gonna be... I don't know what I'm gonna be. Let's find out. What are you gonna be? If the Indigo Disc sucks narratively as much as the main game and the first DLC did, what will you do? I know I'm writing a blank check here, but it reminds me of what we do for Klondike Bar, and that's funny to me. And while I've got you thinking about sweet treats, some other sweet things are going on in the Patreon. That's right, it's a plug. I should have brought up that I'm holding ice cream. Check out the Patreon. There will be the original version of this video that was not funny. And bloopers from this recording of this video, or maybe an extended cut, one of the two. There's a bunch of other bloopers and extended cuts and alternate versions on there. as well as some polls and other things so that you can affect the content that you get to see on this channel, as well as every episode of How Long Is This Podcast with my buddy Fresh Sandwich. Remember to subscribe, remember to leave a like, share with a friend. Tell me how you would have fixed the plot, the main plot of the Teal Mask DLC. And I, and Little Creamtown, will see you guys next time. Caw! I did it. I did the bird noise. Are you happy? Are you happy I did the bird noise? My brand?